All right, so we're diving into mask making. It's a pretty cool mix of artistry and practicality, right? We've got all the source material here, career guides, interview questions, everything. To help you totally nail that interview, it's kind of like sculpting your answers, you know, carefully adding those layers of detail and experience to show you the perfect fit.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about this field is that it goes beyond just artistic talent. I mean, a great mask maker gets how a mask interacts with the body, how it affects movement, and how it lets the wearer embody a character.
Totally. It's like the mask becomes a character itself.
Hmm.
Speaking of character, one of the first things they'll probably ask is about your experience. Like, what experience do you have in mask making?
Hmm.
But don't freak out if you haven't been doing this professionally forever.
Right. Even if you're more of a hobbyist, think about how to frame your experience to highlight those transferable skills. Like, did you ever take a sculpture class? Tried different molding techniques, maybe even some costume design or special effects makeup. All those things show you understand form structure and creativity.
And they'll probably ask what fascinated you about those experiences, what techniques you learned. So really think about what sparked that passion and how you've gotten better.
Yeah, this is where you can let your enthusiasm shine through. Interviewers want to see that you're genuinely excited about mask making, even if you're just starting out. And here's a tip. RoleCatcher's AI can actually analyze the job description and highlight those keywords that the interviewer is going to be looking for. Like if they want someone with a strong sculpting background, you can emphasize that.
That's pretty cool. It's like giving your answers a little AI boost. Okay, next question. How do you ensure the quality of your masks?
Hmm.
This is where you show off that attention to detail, that meticulousness that sets a true craftsman apart.
Think about the whole process from choosing the right materials to the precision of sculpting, molding, finishing. Do you have a checklist you go through to make sure things are consistent and durable?
Oh, and they'll definitely ask you to expand on that. So be ready to share specific examples of what you do. Like maybe you have a way to test how flexible a mask is or how comfortable it is to wear for a long time.
Right. They want to see that you're not just throwing things together, but that you have a methodical process, that you really care about quality.
Okay, question 3. How do you stay up to date with the latest trends and techniques in mask making? Fairly. And this isn't about chasing every fad. It's about showing you're committed to learning and growing in a field that's always changing.
Exactly. Are you reading industry publications, going to workshops or conferences, maybe experimenting with new materials like bioresins for more sustainable practices? Sharing these things shows dedication, but it also shows you can adapt and you're willing to try new things.
And RoleCatcher can be a big help here. Their skill guide section actually keeps you updated on new technologies and techniques in specific industries, so you can tailor your knowledge to the job you're applying for.
That's a really good point. It shows you're not just skilled, but you're also thinking ahead and staying on top of things.
All right, on to question 4. Can you describe a challenging project you worked on and how you overcame the obstacles? Now, everyone's had challenges, especially in a creative field. This is your chance to turn those struggles into a positive.
Don't be afraid to pick a project where things didn't go perfectly. It's about showing how you problem solve, adapt to surprises, and learn from mistakes.
Yeah, they might even ask, how did this experience shape your approach to mask making?
Hmm.
So think about what you learned, the techniques you improved, how you grew as a mask maker through that challenge.
It's all about resilience and a growth mindset. They want to see that you're not just talented, but also able to handle the bumps in the road.
Now, for a question that gets to the heart of mask making, how do you balance artistic expression with practical considerations like comfort and functionality?
Cool.
This is key because a beautiful mask that's impossible to wear or perform in is basically useless.
This question is about understanding that a mask is more than just a static art piece. It's a tool for performance, a way to communicate an extension of the wearer's body and voice. So how do you make sure your masks are not just beautiful, but also comfortable, breathable, and allow for full expression?
And be ready for them to ask for specifics like, can you share a time you modified a design to improve function without messing up the artistic vision?
This is where you show your collaborative spirit and your problem-solving skills. Maybe you had to adjust the weight of a mask for better balance, or added hidden ventilation.
It's all about finding that sweet spot between form and function. Speaking of balance, let's talk about balancing your artistic style with the needs of a project or client. They might ask, how do you approach custom mask designs?
This is where you can shine as a creative individual. It's about showing that you can take a client's vision and turn it into art while still staying true to yourself. How do you gather info from clients? What questions do you ask to really get their needs and preferences?
And they might even say, what specific questions do you ask clients, or how do you show them different design options?
It's about your communication, your collaboration, your ability to balance creativity with practicality.
And speaking of practicality, we can't forget about safety, especially these days. They might ask, how do you ensure the safety of your masks, particularly during a pandemic?
This goes beyond just the wearer's comfort. It's about showing that you're aware of safety guidelines and regulations, that you know your materials, and that you're committed to making masks that are both beautiful and safe.
And they might even say, how do you make sure masks can be sanitized easily without ruining the durability or design? So be ready to talk about your sanitation process and how you factor that into your materials and construction.
It's about being professional and responsible, showing that you prioritize safety without sacrificing artistry.
All right, time for a question that gets to your organizational skills. How do you handle multiple projects and deadlines at the same time? This is crucial in any creative field, especially one as demanding as mask making.
This is where you show off your time management and how organized you are. Do you have a system for prioritizing, tracking progress, and staying on top of deadlines?
And they'll probably ask for a specific example. So be ready to share a time when you successfully juggled multiple projects. Talk about the challenges you faced and how you overcame them. Maybe you used a digital project management tool or a color-coded calendar system.
It's about showing that you can handle pressure, stay organized, and deliver high-quality work on time, even with a lot going on.
Now let's talk money, a topic that can be kind of awkward. But it's important for freelance or commission work. Might ask, how do you approach pricing your masks?
This is where transparency and fairness are really important. Think about what goes into your prices: the cost of materials, the complexity of the design, the time you spend, and any extra services you offer, like fittings or consultations.
And be prepared for them to dig a little deeper with. How do you make sure your pricing is competitive, but also values your time and skills? It's a balancing act, and they want to see that you understand the market while also knowing your worth.
It's about finding that balance where you're paid fairly, but also stay competitive and attract clients.
All right, last but not least, a question that can be tricky but shows you're willing to grow. How do you handle feedback and criticism from clients? Nobody loves hearing negative feedback, but it's part of the creative process.
This is where you can show your maturity, professionalism, and willingness to learn. It's about showing that you can take feedback, gracefully listen to the client, and use that input to make your work better.
And they might ask for a specific example like, can you share a time you got constructive criticism and how you used it? So think about a time when feedback helped you improve your technique, your communication, or the final product.
It's about showing that you value collaboration, that you're not afraid to learn from mistakes, and that you're always trying to get better.
And you know what? This is where RoleCatcher's AI feedback feature can be really helpful. You can record yourself answering these tough questions and get AI-powered analysis on your tone, delivery, and content.
That's right. It's like having a personal coach helping you refine your answers and present yourself in the best light. It takes the guesswork out of interview prep and gives you an edge in a competitive field.
Okay, we covered a lot of ground, but we're not done yet. There's still so much to explore in mask making.
It's like you've got this digital mirror, and it shows you not just what you're saying, but how you're saying it. And you can even tailor it to the specific job you know. RoleCatcher analyzes the job description, picks out those keywords, and helps you adjust your answers to really hit what they're looking for.
That's amazing. It's like giving your words a custom-fitted mask, perfectly sculpted to make a good impression.
Yeah, exactly. Now, they might kind of flip things around and ask about how you give feedback. Something like, how would you give feedback to a designer or performer on their mask concept?
Oh, that's a good point. It's not just about taking feedback, but also giving it in a helpful way. This is where being a good communicator and collaborator really matters.
For sure. Think about finding that balance between honesty and being encouraging. You want to offer useful insights to improve the design, but still respect the artist's vision, you know?
Yeah, it's like walking a tightrope between constructive criticism and celebrating their ideas. And speaking of tightropes, budgets are a big part of the job, too. They might ask, have you ever had to work with a tight budget on a mask project? How'd you handle it?
This is where you can show off how resourceful and problem-solving you are. Can you think of a time you had to get creative with materials or find cheaper options without sacrificing quality?
Right, like maybe you repurposed stuff from old projects or found a new supplier with better prices. It's about showing that you can work within limits and still deliver something awesome.
And don't be shy about talking about negotiation. Maybe had to push for a little more budget to make sure the mask met certain safety or functional needs.
Exactly. It's about knowing the value of your work and being able to explain that.
Yeah.
Now let's talk teamwork. They'll probably ask about your experience collaborating, because that's huge in creative fields.
Think about a time you worked on a mask project with a team. What was it like? How'd you deal with different personalities and opinions?
They might even ask, can you give us an example of a time you had to work closely with a team on a mask project? What were some of the challenges and rewards?
Yeah, be ready to talk about communication, sharing ideas, and resolving conflicts in a team. And don't forget to highlight the good stuff about teamwork. Did you learn new techniques from your teammates? Did working together create a more innovative final product?
For sure. Collaboration can be super rewarding, and they want to see that you're into that. Now let's get into something specific to mask making. The connection between the mask and the performer. They might ask, how do you think about the actor's movements and expressions when you're designing a mask?
This is where your understanding of anatomy and movement is important. Do you watch how actors use their faces to show emotion? Do you build flexibility and breathability into your design so they can express themselves fully?
And they might even ask, can you give an example of a specific design element you use to make a mask work better for the wearer?
It's about showing how you think and how you see the mask as an extension of the performer, not just a separate object.
Speaking of extensions, what about technology? Do you use any digital tools in your process?
Absolutely. 3D modeling, digital sculpting, even virtual reality. These are becoming more common in the field. And this is where RoleCatcher's Career Compass can be really helpful. It can map out different career paths and show you skills you might want to learn for the future.
So even if this particular mask maker job doesn't work out, you're still ready to explore other options like costume design, prop making, or other creative fields. It's about having a long-term plan for your career.
Exactly. But going back to the tech stuff, are you familiar with any of those digital tools? What do you think about how technology is changing mask making?
They want to see that you're skilled in traditional techniques, but also open to new tech.
And remember, RoleCatcher is constantly updating with new skills and trends so you can stay ahead of the game.
It's like having a digital mentor guiding you through the world of mask making. Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about inspiration. They might ask, where do you get your creative ideas?
This is a chance to show your personality. Are you inspired by nature, history, myths, and different cultures? Do you have favorite mask makers or artists?
Yeah, and don't be afraid to get personal. Have any of your own life experiences shaped your artistic vision?
They want to see that you're not just technically skilled, but that you're a creative thinker with your own unique perspective.
Okay, last question for this part. What do you think are the biggest challenges facing mask making today?
Here you can show that you understand the industry as a whole. Are there any economic, technological, or artistic challenges that mask makers are dealing with?
Yeah, like maybe the rise of mass-produced masks, the need to adapt to new safety rules, or even how audience expectations are changing. What are your thoughts?
This question is about going beyond your own experience and showing that you understand the bigger picture of mask making and its future.
And that wraps up our deep dive into sample interview questions for mask makers. But before we finish, there's one key part of interview prep we haven't talked about yet.
It's the research part, you know. People forget about it, but knowing your audience, the company, the specific production, it can really make a difference.
Oh, like if it's a theater company that does experimental stuff versus one that's more traditional, that would affect how I show my portfolio and answer questions.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher can help with this too. They have this huge database of employers. You can look up the company, see what they've done, maybe even find employee profiles to get a sense of their culture.
That's so useful. It's like scouting out the place before a big show.
Yeah.
Except the stage is the interview room and your talent is the star.
I like that analogy. And speaking of being prepared, here's one last tip. Have some questions ready to ask them. It shows you're interested, curious, and you're taking this seriously.
Oh, good one. What kind of questions should I ask?
Yeah.
Any examples?
Well, it depends on the role, but some good general ones are, what's the company culture like? What are the biggest challenges and rewards of this job? Are there chances for professional development or mentorship?
And maybe something specific to their work. Like if it's a theater company, ask about their upcoming season or their artistic vision. It shows you did your homework.
Exactly, and it gives you info to decide if this is the right place for you to grow creatively. Remember, an interview goes both ways.
Okay, so basically we're not just prepping for an interview. We're becoming well-rounded mask makers. Thinking about the craft, the business, the collaboration, the whole thing.
Yeah, you're not just making masks, you're making your career. And with the right prep and attitude, you can really make it something special.
Here's something to think about as you walk into that interview room. How does all this new interest in mask making, especially with cosplay and costumes, how does that affect your artistic approach and what you want for your career? It's a really exciting field full of possibilities. And what makes you unique can help you stand out.
Good luck, and remember, the mask is just the start of the story. Go make something incredible.